What is up, everybody? How are we doing? We are live with another episode of Commercial Roofing Radio. We got my buddy Michael Stearns in the house. My dude is the owner and founder of Ascend Digital Media. He's helping roofing companies build their brands, get more calls, and generate more leads.
Cut.
Hold on. Let me finish my intro. Big Buffalo Bills fan. Big Buffalo Bills fan. All right, I'm all about that. For those of you who don't know, Stephon Diggs, not last season, season 4 that. Championship round of my fantasy season, right? 10 years in the same league, never won the ship. Diggs goes off. 3 touchdowns, baby. 3 tutties. Wins me the championship. I got a signed jersey. Should have brought it today. All right, so we'll see if he's an actually legit fan. We'll see if he's broken a table before. I hope so. If not, I'm going to be disappointed. All right. Our buddy Stearns here, he skipped the 2nd grade. So I'm curious about that. He graduated high school at 16 years old. His big dream was, hey, I'm going to be an attorney, private practice, 24 years old, right? That's the goal. Boom, life happens, right? He ends up having his daughter at 19 years old. He ends up battling addiction. But of course, he was able to ascend his life to get where he is today. And he did that by ascending roofing brands across the country. Stearns, what's up, bud? How you doing?
Nick, my brother, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, my man. What's going on?
Not much, man. I share a love for Stephon Diggs. That's my guy right there. He also helped me win a championship 2 years ago. So it was more like the gravy on top of the potatoes, though. I didn't necessarily need him to go off for 35 points in my championship game, but he did. Mm-hmm. He left it all on the field, and for that, I'm grateful. Thank you, Stephon.
Well, hey, wasn't it against New England too? So I mean, that's gotta feel good, right? Anytime you're pounding New England.
Yeah, they've bestowed years of misery upon Bills fans, so it never sucks to see them kind of go off against Belichick and his boys. So
what's the deal, man? I mean, you guys have been knocking at the door. The Bills have been knocking on the door for that championship, get knocked out against Kansas City, lose based off a coin flip in one of the craziest games I've ever seen. Is this the year?
Yeah.
Is this the year?
I mean, you would have to think so, right? It's funny, the history with Kansas City, because, yeah, that game last year was, I mean, the biggest emotional roller coaster from a sports perspective I've ever been a part of. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, it's ironic, because one of my fondest memories as a kid was, I think it was 94 when we played, the Chiefs came to Buffalo for the championship, and we beat them, right? And that was the year I think we lost our 4th Super Bowl, if I recall correctly. So they've been a part of the Bills landscape for as far as I can remember. And, yeah, that one last year hurt. So hopefully the Bills win the Super Bowl this year. I got faith in them.
Have you broke a table? Everyone's dying to know.
I've broken many tables, yeah. In the context of, like, jumping through a table that's on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but not in the context of, like, yeah.
The Bills. I'm talking about the Bills.
I almost broke my table trying to set this podcast up.
Yeah. You're telling me. I almost broke a lot of things trying to set up this podcast, man. I think I've done like 200 of these things by now, and it still takes me an hour and a half to get set up sometimes. You got to love that. But no, for real, have you jumped? Have you done it? You see this stuff online. Are people doing that a lot, or is that the big thing in Buffalo?
I mean, it happens all the time. I have not. I'm old at this point, Nick, so I can't risk.
Well, you're afraid you're gonna break something, or what? Aren't you a boxer, bro? Come on, you can jump through a table,
I'm not,
bro.
I mean, I have boxed. I'm not like a professional boxer or anything like that, but yeah. Even at this point, move on from sparring because I'm too old.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I respect that. You get a little smarter.
Leave it to the young whippersnappers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the deal, man? Well, how do you end up skipping 2nd grade? Most people, they have to redo the grade, but you ended up skipping it. What happened there?
I think it was one of those situations where my teacher was frustrated. I would tend to finish work, right? And as I'd finish work, as a kid, I would distract other people, right? Because I'd be bored. And it was perpetually an issue. And I think it was one of those things where there was a conversation. I remember I got a call from the principal with my mom, and we were just having a conversation about like what I would think about it. And, at that point I was all about it. I'm like, yeah, shit, I'm going to get out of school a year sooner. Absolutely. Right. So I got put in this like hybrid first/transitional second class for like the latter half of the year. Took the second grade final and then went on to third grade.
Dang, man. And then you end up graduating at 16 years old.
Yeah. So like, spoiler alert, it didn't fix the whole we're going to stop him from distracting people by putting him in more challenging work. I was still very distracting. Every report card and progress report was, Michael's a pleasure to have in class. Michael's a distraction to other kids. It was like one of the two, if not both, right?
Have you always had you just have a high IQ, would you say? I mean, not to, put you on blast, but you just say you just like got stuff pretty easily and then
I don't know. I don't consider myself like a radical intellectual by any means, right? I think there's tons of people that are significantly smarter than me from an IQ perspective, but it was just one of those things where the opportunity presented itself, so I took it. What I didn't forecast, at that point in time, which became more apparent later in life, like sophomore, junior, senior year, right? Like when you're playing sports. Being a year behind developmentally, like physically, right?
That's tough.
Was hamstringing to some degree, right? So there were pros and cons, just like anything else. It was an interesting experience. Glad to be able to talk about it, but yeah, here we are.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. So then, when you graduated at 16. Were you planning on going to college then? Because, I mean, that's another step, too, where it's like, hey, that's a weird age to be going into college. You're pretty young then.
Yeah, so, like, my last year of high school, I front-loaded all my classes, kind of forewent all the study halls I could have had to fill out my schedule to get out of there halfway through the year or whatever. So it was like one of those things where I wanted to go to college. I wanted to get everything done as soon as possible, and get to making money. Right, like that was my thing. Right, I'm a staunch capitalist. I want to make money.
At 16, at 16, you're like, I'm going to go make money now.
Yeah, I mean, I worked at my stepfather. He owned a pizzeria, right? So I was in the kitchen when I was like 11, 12 years old, folding boxes, stretching out pizza dough, doing whatever I can to make some money, right? I wanted that independence, just like I feel like a lot of other kids.
Of course.
But yeah, man, I had a dream that like I was going to be an attorney and it was going to be great. And the sooner I get out of high school, the earlier I can get to college, the sooner I can get that done. Go to law school and then be an attorney. And that was my thing, right?
Mm-hmm. And then
life punched me in the face.
Yeah, dude. Hey.
Yeah.
So were you going to school though? I know you ended up, fast forward a little bit here. You ended up, having your daughter right at 19. Yeah. I know you're battling addiction. What were you doing during that time? Were you at school during that time? Were you doing something else, or what were you doing during that?
I took maybe, I think 2 semesters off. So it went from, okay, I'm going to get through college as quick as possible, get through law school and get to pass the bar and things like that, to, okay, I'm having a daughter. I was working full time, doing school full time. And there were 2 semesters throughout 8 years that it took me to end up getting my 4-year degree. Right. So my plan got stood on its head. But I ended up, I still worked, 30 to 40 hours a week. I ended up dropping down to part-time in school. So taking 2 to 3 classes a semester, with the exception of my last semester where I did, I think, 6 classes. Just made it work, man. Right. Like I was in uncharted water, obviously, and having a newborn, just getting out into the workforce, and things like that. So it was challenging, but it's like, it's great to have goals, like planning, having goals, like those things are super important, but being able to pivot, right, from those goals to make things work when life gives you lemons, to make lemonade, right, that type of thing.
So true, though.
I think,
yeah. No, it's so true. I mean, to be able to adapt, right? Anybody can have a great vision, all that kind of stuff. But when chaos arises, are you willing to adapt, right? And change your plan. So what about, at a financial standpoint, if you're at 19, having your daughter, did your mind work a little bit differently in terms of, looking at your finances and stuff like that? Or what was kind of going through your brain?
Yeah, so I worked in collections when I was 18 for some years. I hated the job, if I'm being honest, right? You gotta call a bunch of people. Many of them have choice words for you, right? And you're trying to. And here's the thing, right? It's just like in any other industry, whether it's marketing, whether it's collections. There's no industry where I don't feel this is true. There's a lot of people that suck at their job or don't do things the right way. So like in the context of like bill collectors, right? You see on like Dateline, these people that are harassing people, threatening to get arrested if they don't pay their bill. They're going to show up with the sheriff's, like all this ludicrous nonsense. But that wasn't me, right? So I would take, you try to have empathy, and it was an interesting time to get into that industry because it was right around 2008 when, the financial crisis happened and we went into the recession, and there were just a lot of people that found themselves in precarious financial situations. And it was my job to help them, right? Help figure it out. You know what I mean? So, I did, well for an 18, 19, 20-year-old, financially. But, there were a lot of missteps along the way. We broke a lot of eggs to make the omelet. like you'd mentioned, I struggled with addiction, right? That was a taxing situation, and one that I feel very fortunate to have found my way out of it. It took some things happening for me to have that aha moment, right? To where it became a priority, because, you can say you want something and that's fine, right? But then like actually wanting it to the point where you execute on a plan to divest from that situation, that's a different set of circumstances.
So let's dive into that then. So, how did the addiction kind of start? We can begin there, I feel like.
Yeah. So, it started with, so I was in the last month, I'd say, of my first semester in college. And I was going for my undergrad. I took accounting initially, which, God, you want to talk about a misstep. I absolutely hated it. Right. So working through these night classes, going to these 2.5-hour block classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I'm like, good Lord, this is awful.
So brutal.
Yeah, it really was. But get through it. I can switch majors, whatever. So there were a few weeks left in the, maybe 2 or 3 weeks now that I think about it, left in the semester, and I was helping a friend of mine. We were moving his house, and he had a truck outside, and we're moving some weight. So I had a 45-pound plate in each hand. I walk up the stairs, and I get in the middle of the street, and I literally thought I'd been like shot in the head. Like I just fall down with the most excruciating pain in my head. I had no idea what was going on, right? So rushed me to the hospital. It turns out that I have spinal meningitis. Got like a lumbar puncture, a spinal tap, that was bad. That wasn't great. Yeah. So, they had treated me. It turns out it was the viral sort, not bacterial, which was a really good thing for me, because the bacterial is, I guess, the one that'll kill you. Viral kind of runs its course. Your brain swells up. The virus leaves your body after time, and then you go back to normal. So, was very endeared by that news when the doctor had explained that. But yeah, I had a toxicology, and because I had weed or whatever in my system at the time, they wouldn't give me anything for the pain. The pain was, to say debilitating would be an understatement, right? When these like flare-ups would happen. So I went out and I got some opiates from a friend, some painkillers, right? harmless enough until it wasn't, right? That kind of evolved into a dependency, right? And that got worse and worse. And, you know, a couple years down the road, it was at the point where I had overdosed, right? And I guess most would say I'm lucky to still be here, and I feel very, very blessed to be. And that was kind of that was the epiphany. That was, I guess, the kick in the ass that I needed to figure out how I'm going to actually straighten this out, because, you know, it was a recipe to not be here.
So when something like that happens, where literally your life's on the line, right? You could potentially have died. What does the lens look like now, right? So all of a sudden, you know, you're looking at life one way, that happens. What lens are you looking through after something like that?
Different one, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, here's the thing, man. It's like, you try to focus on the things that matter. You try to not take things for granted. But even so, like there's times where I take things for granted, right? Where we assume, right? Like, you know, we have our list of problems on a day-to-day basis, right? Whether they're personal problems, you know, relationships with people, or, you know, if you're trying to implement a new CRM or something like that, and you're just banging your head against the like, you have all these things
done.
that
Mine's done at least over here.
Yeah, we're getting there. But you have all these things. You have all these things that seem like such paramount tasks, and they're so stressful, and like, but it's like, I use my experience as like an opportunity to step back and like really try to gauge, like, at the end of the day, like, how big of a deal are these things, right? Like, I don't want to say don't take life too seriously, but like, there's a lot of things that somebody like myself, I have an easy enough time working myself up to make these issues in my mind a lot bigger than they are, right? To be anxious about them.
You sound like me, man. You got the addictive personality, dude. You get like hooked on these situations, make them way worse than they are. It's like, it's one of those things where we have this thing where it can either weigh us down or be a superpower, right?
Yeah, no, and that's, I couldn't have said it better myself, right? It works to my advantage in a lot of ways, and, you know, in some instances, it works completely to my disadvantage. So it's all about trying to harness that energy, I would say, in the right ways, and deploy it in a meaningful way, right?
No, yeah, 100%, man. Me and you, that's why me and you connect so well, I feel like, man. So I completely agree with that. So, you know, obviously you went through a lot. You have an unbelievable story. What happened where all of a sudden you fell into the roofing space then? How did you end up hanging out with a bunch of roofers now?
Yeah, so my dad was a roofing contractor, GC type, you know, focused predominantly on roofing. So that kind of always, you know, piqued my interest. I guess being able to relate to it, watching him run his business and things like that. You know, and that's back when like phone book advertising was huge, right? And that's all you had to do was pay for a bigger ad, and you get a bunch of calls, and it was great. So I would say that was kind of the bridge as far as pursuing it. And, you know, from there we just kind of pursued it, right? Started building relationships, learning more and more about the industry. I admire the guys that can get up on a roof, man, because it ain't me. You know, my dad could. You're not going to catch me on many roofs.
Hey, you belong behind the computer, bro.
Yeah. Sit me at a desk, throw some headphones on. Like, this is my safe place, right? Climbing up a ladder. It's funny, man. When I was like 17, one of my buddy's dads owned a construction company, and he was doing like, I had to get mason blocks up this 40-foot ladder for him, right? And I think it was like $5 an hour off the books. And I did it for like 4 hours. And I was just like terrified the entire time. Right. And I'm getting him up there, pass him off to the guy on the roof. And I literally terrified, complete terror. And fucking guy didn't even pay me. Never paid me.
Dude, look at, man. Hey, we also have like the same trauma, man, because it was actually for me, my dad, he owns like 6 rental properties in Milwaukee, right? Kind of like low end properties and whatnot. And so he does all the work himself, but he would just use me. So I'd be an entire summer just working on these properties, dude. I remember one year, dude, I was maybe 12 years old, I think, and I was doing the spray foam insulation. So, you know, you rip it apart, you throw it in the thing, it starts to cut it all up, and you're foaming and spraying it. it's going in you have the mask, but it's going in your nose and stuff like that. And dude, I was like, I ain't doing this, bro. And look at that. So this stuff happens, and then this is what happens. You start a marketing company. You know what I mean?
There you go.
Yeah, right. But so, I mean, what about marketing though? So why did you pick marketing? Was it because those are skills you're already kind of using, or like what was the marketing side of things?
I had done some stuff in college, like organizing events, talking, working with different people, and honestly, like I had gotten reached out to by a company. Like I wanted to do a sales position, right? Mm-hmm. I think through my experience in collections, like while it was a job that I really did not enjoy, I really enjoyed helping people, but the path that it took and like the conversations and it's not like handling objection like in a sales call where it's like, no, we're good. We don't see the value in it. Now is not the right time. We don't have the budget for it. Like those are different objections than being told what you're told when like you're calling to talk to somebody about, a delinquent balance on a credit card, right? It's a much more explicit conversation. And I mean, it's easy enough to let things roll off, but after time, like doing that for 8 hours a day or 10 hours or 6 hours like that, it's tough, right? But it taught me the ability to kind of remove my emotions from situations, right? To think of things like very rationally, logically. And I mean, though, like the skill sets that I was taught through that position, I thought would translate really well to sales. When I got out of college, not a lot of people agreed, right? A lot of like traditional companies are like, well, you don't have any sales experience. I'm like, well, for the last 8 years, I've been skip tracing. So finding people that don't want to be found, starting a conversation, and then performing very well at having that conversation and convincing them to pay for something that they used 3-4 years ago. I'm like, if you're selling something of any value, I feel like I would be able to do that very easily. But a lot of people didn't agree. They were like, nah, we're good.
And you have people who do not want to talk to you already too. So, you have to, you're starting out in a heated situation, in sales, it doesn't have to be heated right off the bat.
Right.
You're hot and you're cooling off the situation. So that is definitely a big advantage to have, a good skill set to have.
Yeah. So I had a company that took a chance on me and it worked out really well. I'm the type of person, like I always want to get better. I want to learn more. I feel like inquisitive. So it's like in that situation through doing sales, I started to learn like the fulfillment side, right? And what goes in to each of the products and how, the synergy between, the different facets of marketing that we're doing, and not only things that we were doing internally for people, but things externally that they were doing and how to make those play well together with the services that we were offering. Mm-hmm. So in doing so, I created a situation where it's like, if you're doing all these things and can do them and have an idea of how to lead, why not do it for yourself? Right?
Mm-hmm. Amen to that. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, when did you start playing with Google then? I mean, you live on Google. That's kind of your thing, right? Would you say that you love Google and all things Google?
Yeah. So, I became a firm believer in Google, and it was probably like 2009 when I was walking around campus. So because of my schedule, like I'd usually wake up and get to the library around 5 a.m. and do my like homework, get ready, study, whatever for like those first couple hours. That's, dude, like between like 4:30 and 7:30 is where my brain runs optimally, right? Like no distractions, like very clear. And I can set my agenda and focus on that very well. So that's when I would always go to the library. And it didn't matter if there were 3 people or 100 people in that library. Like everything was on Google. Everybody was on Google. And Google wasn't what it is today back then, right? I mean, they were gaining traction for sure, but it was nowhere near as prevalent of a search engine as it is today, I feel. And if only I had money to invest in Google back then, I would be wealthy.
You'd be sitting pretty.
I was a broke college kid. Yeah. So that's when my interest was kind of peaked in it. I started really diving into Google 7-ish years ago from a marketing perspective.
Yeah. And so let's dive in. So obviously, I like some story time, but I do like to leave some nuggets. And you're a dude that's full of knowledge. I've had some good conversations with you. I got to interview you. I think probably in the beginning of the year for another segment that we did, and I was like, hey, he really knows his stuff. When we're looking at the landscape of Google, right? I want to figure out how a roofing contractor is going to maximize that. But the way I want to do that is let's say that you're a roofing company right now that's doing between 3 to 7 million or something like that, right? You do, residential, commercial. What are you looking like online, right? What does that look like? What does that digital ecosystem look like for you?
What are you looking like, or what should you look like?
Should. But this one should.
Gotcha. So, I mean, there's like very fundamental things like, your website, your Google business profile, making sure that all your services are reflected, your service areas, posting content to both your website and to your Google business profile page. And I mean, I guess from there, it's going to depend on what the goals of that $3 to $7 million company are, right?
So ask me some questions.
You're trying to grow.
Yeah, ask me some questions. Get me going. I like this. I'm trying to do more role play stuff. You know what I mean? Ask me some questions.
Okay. All right, Nick.
How about it's Peak Leads Roofing? Peak Leads Roofing.
Peak Leads Roofing. And you did how much in revenue in the last 12 months?
Like 6.5, I would say. Probably 6.5.
You did 6.5 million. Okay. So fast forward 12 months from now, what do you want that top line revenue number to be?
I mean, I would like to be 10. I think we could hit 10, 11. I feel like that's very doable. We had an awesome year, but there was some stuff that was open. I think we got a lot of momentum. I would like to hit 10, 11. I know some people are kind of, slowing down a little bit during this weird times, but I think we can hit that.
Okay. So Nick, if you were to get to 10 based on the volume of leads that you would have to obtain to get there, do you have the infrastructure built out for answering the calls, for making sure that you have reps that can run the jobs?
Yeah, I feel really good about our, CRM set up really well, right? So yeah. I got that implemented. Everybody's trained on that, so I feel good. Admin's been great. She's worked for us, 4 or 5 years. She's great. So I feel very good about that. We got people that can run the leads. I would say, it's probably sometimes it's inconsistent, right? So sometimes we have a lot, sometimes we don't. So I think the inconsistency kind of hurts us a little bit. So that would be good. You know what I mean? And then so it's like all of a sudden this lead goes dry, and then it's like, I don't know, you got to figure out ways to replace it. So I think more leads probably would help.
Yeah. So in that $6.5 million, what are you presently doing for advertising, and what is driving the leads?
So we got some SEO going. I'm not 100% sure how that's working, but I feel like that's been good. We've been doing that for a year or so. We use the Google local service ads. That's been good. And then on the commercial side, we're doing a lot of like prospecting, where we're going directly to the property, or we're going to networking events, associations, stuff like that.
Cool. Yeah, that's really good. So just based off of that information, I think that your opportunity to achieve that growth would be launching a Google ad campaign, right? Mm-hmm. Because Google local services is fantastic, right? I think every contractor should have local services and try to get as much out of that as possible. But it gets to the point where you reach the end of the cookie jar and there's no more cookies, right? So
right.
On Google, aside from like the results from your organic, right, from SEO, the traffic that you're going to get from that, the leads that you'll get from that, as far as like a paid marketing, Google local services right now is like the lowest cost per lead. And then you're going to look at Google ads. So we would have to fire up a budget for Google ads. What market are you in, Nick? You're in Denver?
Yeah, I'm in Denver, but then, someone was telling me I got to do Facebook ads though. Gary Vee went on here like 3 years ago or something at some conference, a roofing conference. He said Facebook ads. Ever since, everyone's saying Facebook ads. So I'm like, dude, I don't know.
So if we're talking about like putting together a full marketing strategy, like I don't think Facebook ads are a bad play. when you're doing them under the correct pretense, right? And that's important, because you'll see, for instance, Nick, I'm a part of a lot of Facebook groups, and you'll see guys, showing these snapshots of these dashboards where they're getting their clients leads for $4.87 a piece.
Mm-hmm.
I call that a
Can you
van
do me that,
lease.
Stearns? Can you give me the $4 leads?
Right. Dude, I can get you as many of them as you want, right?
Yeah.
You're going to hate me after running the campaign for 60 days. But as long as I could say it was a conversion, like, we're good, right?
Yeah.
So running it with the correct expectation. So, like, for instance, if you get smacked with a huge storm, I know you guys have been dry in Denver for some time. Let's say you get a massive hailstorm. Like, would it be a terrible idea for you to throw out some ads with some really engaging content, with some attention-grabbing stuff? No, it's not a bad idea. Do some lead gen with Facebook. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. Especially, let me ask you a question, Nick. Do you typically send out canvassers to knock when you guys have a weather event like that, right?
Best lead generation out there, of course.
Okay, all right. So, like, have you done any, like, in that instance, I would say we would leverage Facebook to warm that audience up. So create an ad campaign, get some really compelling stuff in front of your market that you're going to be going and knocking on, right? So that there's some familiarity with your brand versus, how many other people are going to knock that door when that storm hits?
10, 15, 20.
Yeah. So, if they see your truck pull up and they saw your ad a few times over the past few days, right? Would you say there's a stronger likelihood that they're going to engage with you?
I would say so.
Yeah. it's not going to hurt you, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
I would say like that would be an opportunity for Facebook.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's well said, right? So having the right intentions on what it is, because for me, either maybe it's I'm not good at Facebook ads, but I felt like Google was more a more successful route for lead generation, and I think that Facebook can be great for impressions and stuff like that, or retargeting, whatever it might be. But what do you think? Because it sounds like people are really generating leads on Facebook, but I just never really had success with it. It really wasn't my thing.
Yeah, you can definitely be successful on Facebook. So if you look at it through the lens of like Facebook, Google, right? Google, there's undoubtedly more intent because someone is going to their phone or they're going on a computer and typing in, they're damn near waving a sign that I need a roofer, right? It's just a matter of who they're going to call, right? So there's unmatched intent, and that's what's going to give you the strongest likelihood of a conversion, right? Is that intention. I intend on picking somebody who. Versus Facebook, where we're scrolling through our feed and, we're laughing at something, I see a big picture of, I like big roofs and I cannot lie. So I throw it a laugh reaction, right? Ha ha. There's a funny video of a cat chasing a kite or a laser pointer. Like, that's funny. And then it's like, oh, I see a roofing contractor. Like, my intention that I set out for was to be entertained, not necessarily to buy a roof or have a roof inspection. So it's just a lower level intent. With that, you get more reach and exposure on Facebook, dollar for dollar, than you're going to by doing like a Google ad focused campaign. What I tell people that I work with is like, let's use that. And I actually made a YouTube video about it. It's retro versus modern branding, and it's me dabbing on it, right?
So what's make sure you guys are checking out. Make sure you guys are checking out Stearns' YouTube channel too, because you've been posting a lot of content on there too. So that's on the Send page, right?
Yeah, Ascend Digital Agency. You got it.
Cool. So check that
So
out.
that's where, like, I like Facebook as a vehicle to get in front of a lot of people in a quantifiable way to build your brand equity. So, Nick, what are the 5 service areas that Peak Roofing services most frequently?
The service areas? So I would say, all of downtown Denver, we'll do, Aurora, we'll do some Golden, I'll go down to Springs a decent amount, and probably even Fort Collins. Yeah, we're out in Fort Collins a little bit too.
Yeah, so what I would recommend from a Facebook perspective, outside of like lead gen ads, like let's build out some contextually relevant videos, right? And maybe there's a landmark or a restaurant or some identifiable building that makes these ads very relevant to the people within the area that we're targeting. So ideally, we want to target each one of these areas with different ads. And we would want the intro to a video to be like a flyover of something that somebody in that community knows, right? If somebody sees this and they're in this zip code, there's no doubt they're going to know exactly where this video is. Because I think you would agree with me, Nick, that people they like hyper-local. They like businesses in their community, right?
Of course, yeah.
Have you guys ever worked a storm 2 hours away and had a customer tell you no, a prospective customer tell you no because you're not a local company?
No.
No, it never happened. All right. Well, then you're the exception to the rule. But I think people naturally want to work with somebody. It's comforting to know that, hey, if something goes wrong with this install, this guy, he works in my community. Oh, that's my friend's house. Oh, we go to that restaurant all the time. So it grabs their attention, right? And I think that's a really good way to build that brand equity using Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Well, how much money should I be putting into branding, right? And what does that even mean? Like, what the heck? Like, am I going to get something out of that? Like, are we going to get any leads from it? Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah. So I'm going to say just do it. And then what do you think of when you hear just do it?
Nike.
Okay. Right. I mean, I can tell you that I remember a jingle from 1992. I was like 4 years old running around, and this law firm, Celino and Barnes, your injury attorney. Shout out to Celino and Barnes. They kind of split. But anyways, that same jingle, right? I remember their phone number as a result of that jingle, right? They built a strong brand by way of repeatedly playing this jingle. So the brand is kind of what the community knows about, understands, or relates to your company, right? Like, yes, it pays, but it's not in a way, it's not exactly as attributable as, like, let's say, acquisition of a lead on Google Ads. And I think that's a lot of the apprehension that some of your roofing counterparts, Nick, that they kind of miss on and why they don't do it. So with Google Ads, I can run a campaign for you for the next 90 days and show you that we got you 378 leads. And it's fantastic. High five. We averaged $138 a lead cost. Like that, you're excited about that. You're installing more roofs, revenue's being driven. But when you're doing things like branding, there's not as an immediate and demonstrable, quantifiable number to say, like, this is how much money it's adding to your top and bottom line revenue, right? Because if you're doing these Facebook ads, if you're doing Hulu ads or a billboard or TV, how many people are going to say, I saw your billboard or I heard your commercial? Not many people are going to do that, because what they're going to do, they're going to Google roofing companies, right? And because you've got a well-developed brand, they're going to see those few names. They're going to remember your name because they've driven past your billboard or they saw your Facebook ad 137 times over the last year, right? And now subconsciously, they recognize click, right? And that's kind of what the brand will do from you as it relates to internet marketing. So you 100% should engage in branding. As far as what the balance is between like acquisition focused efforts and branding efforts, we could have the conversation till we're blue in the face. There's going to be a lot of varying opinions on that. But I'll tell you that, you know, you should back into it based on what your need and desire is for immediate growth. Have a set budget, take off what we're factoring in towards like the immediate marketing efforts, and then take the rest and put it into branding.
I like that answer. And that's a difficult question, right? And when I think of branding, I kind of go with like the Ghostbuster moments of who are you going to call, right? Who are you going to call, yeah. Right? You have a need, right? Who is top of mind, right? And then when they are top of mind, what am I going to pay them? They should already have an idea in their head based off of the way you portray your brand, your company, right? Level of service. That, hey, if you're premium, they're going to already know that that you could be higher. And then can I trust them, right? That's when you're looking at the reviews and everything like that. You know, so for me, it's a no-brainer, because no matter if I was a customer, and I don't care if it's commercial or residential, if you're trying to do business with me, and let's just say it's, 10, 15, 20,000, 500,000, whatever it is that I'm going to spend with you, I'm going to look online and see if you play the part. I'm going to look at your social. I'm going to look at the projects you've done. I'm going to look at your reviews. I'm going to look at your website. You know what I mean? Like, is your website look like you put any money into it? Like, does it look like is it broken? Like, all that kind of stuff. So
that can scare people away.
it would scare me. There's no way I would give a contractor, $20,000+ just to say for, my roof. If I went on their website, it's just like broken or looks way out of date or something like that. I'm going to be like, it's perception of value they have to offer me, right? I'm judging them based off of that.
And credibility, right? So I go to the barber. They take a straight razor to my neck, right? Like for me, initially when I first started getting that done, it was very nerve wracking, right? So like I did my research and made a choice that I felt of someone I felt comfortable with. But like if you think of it in terms of like a roofing company, your website's your digital storefront, right? So it would be the equivalent of me walking into a barber shop and I'm going there and the window is broken, the floor, is all broken up, right? The walls are half painted, half not. This guy looked like he just rolled out of bed, and there's zero chance that I'm going to move forward with letting this guy cut my hair and shave my neck. I'm out.
Yeah, no way, man. Take pride in it. Take pride in it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, amen to that, man. You got to take pride in it. So, I mean, what are you seeing? Are you seeing any trends this year? I know that the Google local service thing was a big thing. Anything that you're kind of seeing out there that's been cool? Has it been pretty standard throughout? What are you thinking for this year?
There's been some shakeups, man. There's been some back on Mother's Day. They did a big update on Google. They did local services has seemingly kind of been shuffled around. You're seeing some things within the dashboard that just aren't making sense. So it'll be interesting to see over the next couple months how that plays out. The Google My Business, I think officially ended yesterday to where you have to manage everything not through the app, but through your maps. So the Google Business Profile is still there, but the GMB app is no longer.
Yeah, I don't like the name change either. The Google Profile or whatever it is. What is it? The GMB was so much
Google
better.
Business Profile.
Yeah. The GMB was so much better.
Yeah,
so much better.
We gotta always go shaking things up, Google.
Yeah, exactly.
Love-hate relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, we got a game coming up, but if someone wants to get a hold of you, man, what's the best way to get a hold of you, get in contact with you?
Yeah, definitely. You can go to the website, www.ascenddigitalexperts.com. You can always send me a DM on Facebook or call the office. You'll see it on our Google Business Profile listing.
Yeah, I mean, unbelievable work, right? I've seen what he's done. I've talked to his clients. I've seen, what people are saying about him in the community. So web design, SEO, right? Any kind of paid search with like Google Ads or Google Local Services. He even does help with, some consulting type stuff too. So reach out to him if you have any questions, see if they can, help you out, because I'm sure they can. So Stearns, we got a game now. Okay. So we'll see how smart you are. All right. Oh, hey there. You come here often? I feel like I see you every Wednesday. And, you definitely caught my eye. I'll tell you one thing. You know how to stand out from a crowd. You already got a lot of great things going for you. I mean, I see your company. I see what you got going on. I want to be part of it. How about I give you my number and you send me a text? 720-796-4935. Hey, yeah, it's Nick, right? Peakleads.io. I think we can help you generate some commercial roofing leads. Looking forward to chatting. Talk soon. So it's going to be Who Wants to Be a Roofing Millionaire? We got 5 questions, all right? And you get 2 lifelines. So the first one is 50-50, which will remove 2 of the wrong answers, leaving you with a 50% chance of getting the answer correct. The next one is phone a friend. All right. So you get to call a friend. If they don't pick up, you lose the lifeline.
Ooh.
Sound good?
Mm-hmm. Let's do it.
Now these questions are more tailored to you specifically. Okay. So Stephon Diggs is one of the greatest receivers in the NFL right now. Where did your boy go to college? Is it A, Maryland, B, USC, C, Florida State, or D, Texas?
A.
Dang, 1 for 1. Your boy went to Maryland. That dude can ball, man.
I just let you finish as a courtesy.
Oh! Well, he's off to a hot start. We'll see if he remains confident throughout the remaining 4 questions.
Got you. Let's do it.
All right. So what type of companies do you think get the most phone calls and website visits from Google My Business? Is it A, restaurants, B, gas stations, C, car dealerships, or D, roofing contractors?
A.
He's going with A. A, restaurants. Is that your final answer?
Final.
So that is incorrect. That's why I put restaurants on it, because I would have said restaurants. Dude, it's car dealerships. I'm guessing
that was my second.
I think the restaurants is probably going to be, more the maps and directions. You know what I mean? I think then
I'm gonna need to see the empirical data behind your findings to where you're pulling this info.
I got it from Magnified Media, Google My Business 101 statistics about Google My Business.
Who? What media? This guy.
Where am I supposed to find this?
That's not peer reviewed, Nick.
Oh, look at this guy. Look at this guy.
We're gonna put an asterisk.
He's causing a scene. He's causing a scene.
I was going to do 50-50, but I knew damn well that you were going to leave restaurants and car dealership there. So I was like, I'll just say the lifeline. All right.
Surprisingly, it was not roofing contractors, but maybe if you work with Stearns, maybe that would be different.
It could be.
All right.
Yeah.
When did Google My Business launch? Was it A, 2014, B, 2001, C, 2017, or D, 2009?
Should I phone a friend and get my boy Tim Brown on the line?
Yeah, phone a friend. Why not? Phone a friend. Let's see what he's got.
Hey, Tim, what was it? Yeah. I think he's doing the one industry, one model event.
Yeah.
Run me through the dates again.
All right. So
let's go with 2014. I think it's 2014.
Boom. That's right. That is right, man. There we go. Well done. All right.
I had to build the suspense a little bit.
You had to. I'm impressed. So you're 2 for 3. 2 for 3. All right. So what famous singer is from Buffalo? Is it A, Britney Spears, B, Ricky Martin, C, Aaron Carter, or D, Rick James?
Rick James.
That is correct. How did you know that one?
Chappelle Show.
All right, so the Turkey Trot in Buffalo is the oldest continual run race in America. I believe it was like 5 months before the Boston Marathon. What year did it start? Is it A, 1820, B, 1896, C, 1975, or D, 1933?
Can I use both lifelines on one question?
Yeah, sure. Go for it. Let's go, because you saved him. Like, everybody saves their lifelines. I don't get it. I'm like...
Yeah, 50-50. Let's do it.
All right, so we got the 50-50. You have eliminated 1975 and 1933, leaving you with 1820 or 1896.
God.
Phone a friend. Let's phone a friend. Who in Buffalo knows about the Turkey Trot?
Dude, I got a group that runs the Turkey Trot every year, but I have exactly zero confidence that they would know what year it started.
Oh, this is. We need a phone a friend. Don't waste. Everyone wastes their lifelines. Put them on speaker. Get them on speaker. Let's get a Buffalo native or somebody out here. Figure out when this turkey trot starts. This is the oldest run in America. This is no little thing here. This is a big deal.
Here we go.
Hello.
Phil, I'm on a podcast and I'm using my phone a friend and I'm calling you because I need to know, okay, what year did the turkey trot start? Nick, what are the options?
1820 or 1896?
1820 or 1896?
20 would be 1896.
We're going to go with 1896. Lock it in.
And that is right. Great use of a lifeline. Let's go.
My man. Appreciate you.
Well, so great way to end it. We got, we're going to have Danae reach out to you, man. You did fantastic. We're going to get you a I Like Big Roofs and I Cannot Lie shirt because I know you like those big roofs, man. We got to end it. We got to end it with enlightenment, though. So the time is yours. Enlighten me.
What do you want to be enlightened about, Nick?
Hey, that's up to you, man. It depends what wisdom you got.
I mean, it's just so abundant. I want to give you something that's applicable that's really going to help you. I'm kidding. It's not abundant. I'm stalling here.
Come on. Did you get the email? You're supposed to have 5 minutes of end with enlightenment. It's like Sharon Tell here to end it with. I mean, you could give me something about business. You could give me a book suggestion, something about leadership, whatever you want.
So I recently got through the book Traction.
Nice.
And I thought, have you read that, Nick?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was really good. I like one of the principles that they laid out as far as like the tendency for humans as a whole to kind of get off track after 90 days, right? I mean, there's so much good information, but like that's one of the things that pops into mind, right? Is like how to look at things through like a 90-day window, and then like creating your rocks, right? Which in the book are your 3 to 7 things that you want to accomplish in 90 days, right? I think that was really useful and helpful to me. And then, kind of setting it up to where like your organization, your business has their rocks, your leadership team has their rocks, and then like your employees have their rocks, right? Mm-hmm. So each of you on the macro and micro level are all going to have these rocks, these 3 to 7 things that you want to accomplish in the next 90 days, and then kind of holding yourself, your team accountable to that. I think it was a really good takeaway from that book. So I'm really glad that I read that.
No, is a great takeaway though too, because a lot of people think, hey, I want this much revenue this year, right? But if you're able to break those goals down into even like weekly, I mean, we can do monthly, but we do weekly goals, right? So I got 3 weekly goals and I'm trying to hit every single week, right? That's the best way to do it is these little micro pieces, right? What action items, what activities do I need to do to get that result? So that is a great point.
Yeah, because it's like you don't want to be the kid in study hall that's got 37 things to do and gets nothing accomplished because he's so panic-ridden over the fact that he's got so many things to do, right? So if you break these things down into smaller pieces, more attainable goals, you're likely going to be less overwhelmed by the idea of trying to accomplish them. You're going to, I would assume, have more clarity as far as how you want to attack each one of, in this instance, 3 to 7 things over the next 90 days. And having that plan of attack is important, right? I think planning is really, really important. We touched on it early. Being able to pivot from some things is also important. Being aware, both like personally aware and situationally aware, are 2 very valuable things that I try to work on consistently, right? To be successful, not only in my business, right, in my personal relationships as well. I'm naturally a selfish person, Nick. I'm going to be honest with you here.
We all
so
are.
I try to be aware of that. Yeah. I try to be aware of that and consistently try to hold myself accountable to be more selfless, right? It's a work in progress, right? Like every day is an opportunity to just keep moving that needle in the direction that you want to go. You don't have to be perfect. You're never going to be perfect, but as long as you can keep moving down the right path, I think it's important to also, give yourself credit when you accomplish those things, right? Getting caught up in the day to day and looking. So I'm the kind of guy, Nick, where I'm running a race. Yeah, I know that you've ran some marathons, some ultras, right? So to make an analogy with running, I'm the guy in my mind that's running a race. And when I get, 4 strides from the finish line moves 7 miles down the road, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So now I fixate on getting to that next finish line, right? And I found through trying to be self-aware of why sometimes I feel the way that I feel, like overwhelmed, overburdened, run down, tired.
We're definitely very similar. We're definitely very similar. Yeah. The same. I have a fixation. If I get fixated on something, it's like, that's it. That's all I'm thinking about.
Yeah, of course. So I found that in trying to be aware of that, taking the opportunity to give yourself credit and to enjoy the victories, right? Like, don't let the mile marker 26 shift to 33 as you're getting ready to cross the tape, right? Run through the tape, right? Enjoy it, right? And then move on to your next task or your next goal or whatever that looks like for you personally. I think I've been working on that, and it's been very beneficial for me.
It makes you enjoy the process a lot more. Otherwise, it's like it's never enough. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, no, I need to do this now. I need to do this now. So celebrating those wins, small or big, right? It's going to give you that dopamine hit, that satisfaction that you're looking for to kind of close that off. And then you can kind of go off to that next thing. But you got to give yourself credit. Otherwise.
And it's really easy not to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
100%.
It's really easy to kind of just move on and get going. And so it's like, I think that has been a huge breakthrough for me. It seems like a simple piece of advice and intuitive, but it took me a long time to realize that was a source of a lot of anxiety and just negative emotions in general with how I was approaching things. So
you're creating your own problems, right? Your biggest enemy is going to be your own mind. So you get that mind straight and you're going to be good, man. So Stearns, bro, thank you so much for joining me, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise, Nick. Thanks for having me.